All right, so in our gospel story today, we find ourselves at the Sea of Galilee, catching a sneak peek into the lives of some fishermen who will become disciples. These fishermen have just completed their night shift on the lake. They've put in their good night's work, and by the time Jesus arrives on the scene, it's quitting time. The men are already out of their boats, washing their nets, ready to call it a day. And then Jesus, preaching to a crowd of folks on the shore, asks the fisherman, Simon Peter, if he can use his boat as a floating pulpit. This probably feels like a bit of an imposition, yet Peter agrees to extend his workday and take Jesus out on his boat. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the exhausted Peter dozed off a bit during the sermon and was probably pretty excited when Jesus finished speaking. But when Jesus dismisses the crowd, he doesn't ask to go back to the shore. He tells Peter to take the boat back out to deep water and let down the nets. I can almost hear Peter's deep sigh. Basically, he says to Jesus, "Man, we have fished all night. We have caught nothing. I really don't want to go out again." But in a miraculous turn of events, he finishes his sentence with, "But, oh well, let's go." So the fishermen head back out to deep water. But I'm guessing there was a lot of behind-the-scenes grumbling. "Why are we going out again? Who does this guy think he is? What does this preacher know about fishing? We are the professionals here. We're tired. We're out of energy. We worked all night. We already cleaned the nets. Nothing we tried last night worked. Why will today be any different?" How often are we, like the fishermen after a night of total failure, caught up in this cycle of hopelessness? How many of you can feel this mood in your soul right now? "I'm tired. I've been trying. Nothing is working. I am failing at everything. This is really hard. Can I please go home and sleep?" The fisherman's attitude definitely resonates with me right now as we sit here in the 8th month of the COVID pandemic. So much of my life feels like I have fished all night and come up empty. Thank goodness the book of Luke doesn't leave us here. Back to the story. Since the fishermen surely expected this to be an exercise in futility, we can only imagine their surprise when the same waters they've been fishing all night suddenly produce a load of fish so big that their nets begin to break and their boats begin to sink. The text tells us that Peter's reaction to the events is overwhelming fear and wonder. He knows that he has witnessed a miracle and drops to his knees, telling Jesus, "Go away from me. Go away from me. I am not worthy." Peter is caught off guard. He couldn't have seen this coming. Wasn't he just about to go home from a particularly awful night at work? And now here he stands in the presence of Christ, the one who changes everything. Peter sees the power of God through this miraculous catch of fish, and in comparison to the greatness, he finds himself feeling extra human, extra undeserving. He tells Jesus to go away. But Jesus does not listen. Instead, he offers Peter a new job and tells him, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people." Just like that, from catching fish to catching people. The Greek word that Jesus uses here for catching is zogron, a word rarely used in the New Testament. Zogron means to catch alive. Jesus has caught Peter alive right from the midst of his daily life and now is calling him into a new life of catching others in the good news of God's kingdom. And this good news isn't just for Peter and the disciples. Jesus catches us alive too, right in the middle of our failures, in the middle of our struggles, right in the midst of this global pandemic with no end in sight. Jesus calls to us, "Do not be afraid." In the midst of these crazy times, Jesus continues to call us from our mundane into hope for the future. Sometimes, like the fishermen, all we've got to go on is the word of Jesus, but that is enough. With Jesus, things change from a cycle of failure to overflowing grace and goodness. Jesus opens a new, unexpected way for us. This doesn't mean that everything will always be easy. There will be gray days and hard times and global pandemics. But Jesus sticks with us through the nights of no fish and leads us into days of fish in abundance. Do not give up. We have been caught alive for a purpose. We are tasked, like the disciples, to be fishers of people, to catch others alive on their worst days, to be a net, a support system, a community, a church. We are caught alive to catch alive, even in the age of COVID, especially in the age of COVID. This week, may we continue to put out the nets, to try and try again, to trust that even in our exhaustion, even in our going through the motions, Jesus can make miracles happen. May we have the faith and the tenacity of Peter. May we set out again for the deep waters, even when we fished all night. May we bring others with us into the deep and wide net of God's love and mercy. Amen.